this kind of street photography, kind of like just what Jeffrey was doing, maybe not that gritty, but you know, kind of grew up in the suburbs. I really loved the feel of the city and people and the big buildings and the shadows and the anonymity. I never asked you if I could take a picture. I was always kind of hiding my camera. Anyway, let's start the slideshow and I'll move on. So then I continued doing some of that stuff, and then I decided that I was done with it and I wasn't going to do street photography anymore. I started doing these sculptures, and some of them ended up being little boxes that had like lights and switches. It were sort of like little gadgets and sort of like cell phones when cell phones were just coming out. And then I started taking pictures again, and I started taking pictures of little boxes and gadgets on the street. And I thought, and I came up with the title of this series, as it was already starting to collecting a bunch of photos. I called it Interface. I thought, oh, it's like, you know, the things that people interface with, and you know, it's that sort of like the gadgets in your pocket, and then the gadgets on the street. Anyhow, and then I realized at a certain point, as you're realizing looking at this, that all the pictures had faces in them. And even the name that I picked, Interface, had the word face right in it. And I realized I was right back to shooting pictures of people on the street. and again, not asking their permission. So and that was sort of the evolution of this piece, and I came back to doing photography, and all my photography is kind of rooted in street photography, but not so much in that, in the style of, you know, the Robert Frank and this kind of street photography that we just saw, but still kind of rooted in it. And there's a few different series I have, and this one takes the again, the anonymity of the street, and the idea of running into people, and the idea of running into the people who made these things. You know, why did somebody drill those two holes right there? And you know, did they realize it was a face? Another big theme, another big theme in my work. Again, I have a few different series that look different on the surface, but another big theme in my work is the nature of human perception and how the camera can teach us about how we see the world. And again, you know, when you start looking at these, there's 20 here, and then I have a book version that has about 80 now, and I'm still editing and doing another version. And you really get a sense when you start looking at a bunch of them, and then you look up and you're looking around. If you're walking through the streets, you start really seeing them. And they're kind of hard to not see. And again, so what's interesting to me is how the brain works, and how this in a fun, humorous way can kind of be a lesson in how photographs can help you see the things that you see all the time, and why your brain's interpreting them in a certain way. And the flip side is, you know, again, the person who designed. That's a switch for an elevator, and to call an elevator. And you got to wonder if they saw that, you know? When you isolate it alone and you're not thinking of it, like, this is for that elevator and that's for that elevator, it looks so much like a face. And that's another kind of fun part of it, is wondering how did this industrial design come about. And some of it is industrial design, and some of it is sort of a randomness of two things being placed in next to each other, two things the eye can so easily see two things as eyes, and if something is nearby, it starts to look like a mouth all on its own.
It's funny because, like, you know, everyone's like laughing here. Like when I like was going through our curating thing, like I started laughing like I'm by myself. Like, they're just really hilarious because, you know, like it's funny because like you know I was saying to you before, like, you know, I've taken a few photos like this, but I never thought about stringing them together. And even just the way you're talking about it, it's really humanizes, like, you know, these objects. You know, we want to see faces, and it's almost like street portraits. I mean, even just hearing you talk about how he's doing street portraits, but there's just no people in it.
Did you have anything that you noticed, like, right after the book was different, that you were like, oh, I wish I'd gotten that one in?
This is a blur book, so there's only 3 of them, and I'm still kind of developing.
That's why they're
Yeah, so I'm still putting Blurb is one of these online services that will you use a software to design a book, and then you print just one of it, and of course you can print more, and they can sell them for you online. So I'm still working on this series, still editing them together, and still in the book format, figuring out sort of which ones look good next to each other, which ones just a couple of 2-page spreads and this kind of thing. So I've been showing these at the Oklahoma Artists Gallery, this gallery at Fort Mason, for a while now, and editing together the book version. When I show them as prints, I usually kind of do a grid and do like 5 or 9, and kind of think about how they can, faces might kind of look at each other. Some of them are head on, and some of them look like they're looking off to the side.
And these are shot in different countries because this is photo.
Right. Yeah. There's a bunch in my neighborhood in the Mission in San Francisco, and there's a bunch in Japan. I go there a lot, and some in all kinds of other places. So I'm shooting a lot more when I'm traveling, but I shoot locally too.
I think it's awesome as is just the way once we're trained, and trained really, how instantly, we see the face and how we want to see meaning. And then I had another thought, this would be a great basis to get some collaborators and you start putting in little thought clouds, with personalities, and soon you've got an animated short with different faces talking to each other, and sort of like Cars, all the faces here.
What's your question? Do I only take pictures of parts of the face? Well, so they're not, they're usually all these buttons and switches, or these are doors. And what I'm always doing with my camera is trying to get, I get it a little closer, a little further away, and try and make the frame of the camera bring out not just the face, but the personality of that face. Does that answer your question?
You try and look for these things in more of like a landscape setting, like a bigger kind of macro area, instead of like just these central objects or interfaces.
Yeah, most of them have been, pretty close, but and this one is sort of a, kind of a different take on it. It's a hand, of course. It kind of looks like a face on the side. So I definitely try and break it up a little bit. See, sometimes I look at it, I'm like, well, it's a face, it's not really a face, and then again, the more I look at it, the more in that last one, it feels like, well, actually, it looks like just kind of a smush face with a big forehead or something. So again, the more you look at it, another thing that's nice in working in series is that I can stick in ones that don't look as much like a face. Again, this one, you have to look a little bit harder, and when I have more, like again, there's more in the book format, certain ones can feel a little further removed, where when you first look at it, you would never think that, but in the context of all these other ones, your brain kind of gets trained with it. So to your point, one of the things that I am trying more to do now is to take photos from further away, like bigger architectural elements, and have those, work, also bring out the face of them. There's one of them here, the big doors of a Japanese kind of temple that we were looking at earlier.
It'd be a lot of fun to show this to a group of creative people and have them quietly write down their caption for each one, and then compare and contrast and see whether we all, can see. I mean, we're all projecting, but I think there is research where people can identify moods very easily, based on eyes and so forth. It'd be interesting to take it to something inanimate like this and see what happens.
Sort of like a New Yorker cartoon caption contest, Rorschach test.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's true because even very subtle things you would want to read something like, I see sort of this smirky face, right? This one is like the shape of the cement line and things like that.
It's
Personality.
I'm just curious because you say that when you take photos of things, they end up popping up everywhere. And I'm a photographer, and I notice that too. And I notice themes throughout, whatever I'm feeling or whatever mood. So I'm curious if you happen to notice different faces depending on the moods you're in. So, for example, if you're happy one particular day, do you see more happy faces? Do you feel a little down, or do you a little bit more grim? I'm curious.
I haven't noticed that, but maybe I need to be a little more self-aware. Way to edit.
Are the faces influencing you?
Yeah, I'm just curious if it's
Sometimes I definitely just walk the line and it just catches, from the, kind of like they're calling out to me or something.
Voices you see faces. We have time for one more question.
were saying about how some of them are more obviously a face and some of them are less obviously a face, I think it'd be very interesting to order your photos in a way that the not so obvious ones are first, and then to not tell your audience what they're looking at,
Right.
and then play them through once, and then go backwards out through them again, so that you get progressively more face-looking pictures, and then go backwards now that you know that you're looking at faces, and you see the ones that aren't as much as obvious again.
Yeah, I found it a challenge, yeah, what to do, you know, again, the cover of the book, you know, how far away from the face can the cover be? And again, in showing them on a wall, there's always, I try and always have at least like 5 or something. You kind of need a few in the series to get it, and sometimes I'll show more, and trying to edit together that number is always a tricky thing. But I have the book up here and some couple other books of other series too.